What's going on, everyone? Episode 65 of Lucker Talk Live and the first episode of 2022. Had a few weeks off, had to get everyone a chance to kind of unwind and regroup after the crazy state weekend that was UIL State. And then, of course, you have Christmas and then New Year's. Got one of my, I guess you could call them regulars on the show today, and that's Shana. And Shana, let me welcome you in and first ask, how was Christmas? How was New Year's? All that jazz.
It was great. I'm doing good. We spent a lot of time at my in-laws' house, so that was fun. The dogs got to play with, their cousin dogs and their uncle dogs, however you want to turn that around. But it was a really good Christmas, really good New Year's. Just stayed at home, had a really good roast beef. Brought on the New Year's like an old person in bed. But other than that, it was great. How was yours?
It was good, went to bed before midnight as usual now, and then not as young as I once was. But New Year's good, Christmas was good. What was your best Christmas gift this year?
It's gonna sound funny because it's not a very big Christmas gift, like not expensive wise, I don't think. But I've recently dabbled in tasting whiskey, and so I got some of the ice molds to make the cool little balls, and then also a really cool Brute Mate koozie can that keeps your drink cold as well as keeps your hand from getting cold. So those were two really cool gifts that I've very much enjoyed recently.
Was it the Death Star ice mold?
Oh man, that would have been really cool. I didn't know that existed. But no, they're just regular ice molds, and I was like, I'll start dabbling in the fun shapes of ice mold if I stick with this habit. But ADHD, you pick up. I mean, I'm also trying to learn how to crochet. We'll see how long that lasts too.
Yeah. So my Christmas was good. I think if I had to take now, of course, me and my wife are just basically like, hey, what do you want? And we'll kind of just get each other what we want. Because I mean, now there are some exceptions to that rule and some surprises every now and then. But I didn't really know what I wanted for Christmas this year, so I kind of just there was nothing that I was dying to get. So one day I just kind of went to Best Buy and was kind of looking around, being like, what could I have her get me? And ended up getting it's like a Roku sound bar. So it's like the Roku, but it's also like a kind of a mini sound system, if you will. So just to give my Zelda room that I watch all of my football and play all my video games and whatnot in, it gives it a little more sound. So that's probably my best gift so far. Although this Sunday we're actually going to my grandma's because we usually do Christmas at her place like a Sunday or two before Christmas, but we couldn't do it this year, so moved it to January. So Christmas isn't technically over for me yet. So get one more round this weekend. My January is jam packed. I got that, and then I have a kind of basically a big old some reunion with friends. Then going to Vegas for a bachelor party for my one of my best friends. So man, it's like my January is jam packed this week, Shana.
Man, I tell you, ours is too. It's crazy how fast we're diving right into everything else. A pro tip on the gifting thing when you don't know what you want. What I've been doing is I've made Amazon lists, and I'm like, okay, here are Shanna gift ideas. Here are gift ideas for couple. Here's a gift idea for just home improvement. And throughout the year, I just throw stuff in there and forget about it. Then when it comes time for my birthday, I'm like, let me just send you my Amazon gift list, and then they can spend whatever little or whatever big amount they want to, and everybody's happy. You get something you want. You don't have to sit there last minute and be like, I don't know what I want. I don't know anything about myself. Because I do that every year too with my mom. She's like, give me a list. And I'm like, I don't even know who I am. But yeah, January's jam-packed. I'm excited to get the ball rolling. Spring is just right around the corner, and we're still right here in the middle of all these winter sports.
Yeah, and what's funny about that though is my wife actually did that. She gave me some gift ideas and then also the Amazon wish list. But what I find funny about kind of like the couple gift ideas is for the most part it's still just like, oh, it's a present for my wife, right? No, yes, it's for both of us. I think we got some sheets and stuff for our bed. And it's like, oh, here, that's for my wife, deep down. But it's still stuff we can both use. But I kind of joked with her about that. But let's go ahead and jump into some sports talk. And we always like to start this show with kind of outside of the high school realm a little bit, and some stuff has happened outside of the out of the high school realm. So we'll talk about that. NFL playoffs are a week away, and basically all the teams for the most part are set. Now, Shana, correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a few minutes, but you are a Chargers fan, correct?
I am a Chargers fan, yes.
And they have not clinched yet. They have to. There's some weird scenarios. I don't know if you saw this, but basically, what is it? If the I think it's if the whoever's playing Jack. Oh, so I think it's if Indy loses to Jacksonville, then both teams, the Raiders and the Chargers, if they just like had a tie score, they both get in. And so
Don't play.
people are like, yeah, just take a knee the whole game, right? My
All
question,
15
my
minutes.
question to you is: do you think that's feasible, where both teams would want to get in the playoffs so bad that they just don't score points?
I think it would be hilarious. And the way we keep joking about this in our fantasy league is the way this season has gone. It's just been so weird between injuries and COVID lists. It's just like our fantasy team at least has been all over the place. But it would be hilarious to see. Do I think it'll happen? No, not necessarily. But why not? If all it takes is a tied 0-0 at the end of the game, at the end of overtime, at the end of double overtime, at the end of everything. Just do it. Just make this season as weird as it possibly can be because it already has been.
I wonder. Let's say that I don't think it would happen, right? I don't think. I just don't see that happening, although it makes the most sense, right? But let's say that does happen. You got to think the NFL would change the rules somewhat, saying like, if if you don't put forth effort or something in the game, then the team that this like Indy would make the playoffs or something. I think that they would quickly fix that rule so you don't see that happening. But definitely some crazy scenarios left. My Cowboys pretty much are in. I don't think they'll need some crazy stuff to happen, but they're pretty much in the 4 seed. So they'll probably play Arizona, who they just played again, who they just played and lost to. Probably play them again next week. But we'll see how it goes. I just found out Micah Parsons is in COVID protocol, so he won't play this week because it's now, even though it's a 5-day window, they play in 3 days, so he's not playing. But that's okay. Sometimes I think it's good at this point where, I mean, 3 seed and maybe a 2 seed, they're long shots. That's possible. I think the 3 seed is more possible than the 2 seed, just because I do think the Rams and Cardinals could both lose their games. But I don't know if a lot of Eagles might be. I mean, the Eagles don't really have a lot to play for. They've locked up a wild card spot, and I don't think there's much to do as far as rotating. So we'll see what happens. But moving on to the college realm now, our the college football national championship is set. Will be happening this Monday. It's Alabama and Georgia, and SEC versus SEC once again. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, we should just go back to the BCS." What's your take on that, Shayna? Should we go back to the BCS kind of era things, or something I'm a big proponent of is expansion? Expand it to 8 or 12 teams. What do you think?
See, and that's what I was gonna say when you first started asking me is I just think what needs to happen is expansion, um, because you get getting real nitpicky here. You have the committee who picks it anyway, so it's just kind of like, well, we're for me anyway. I'm a little bit tired of like Bama powerhousing their way every season after season, whether they win or lose the championship, that is. Um, but I think expansion is almost necessary at this point. You have so many good teams, so many smaller schools that do well on a regular basis, and we see this in bowl games too. That I think if we expanded playoffs, uh, you would see a lot more upsets, a lot of surprises, kind of like you do in Texas high school football. I think expanding is, for me, the only route. What about you?
I would agree on expanding. I know the biggest kind of detriment to expanding is when you look at the semifinal games. I think around 70 to 80% of them have been kind of blowout wins, like I think by at least 17 points. So I get that kind of aspect of it, but at the same time, maybe there are some teams that could slip in and do some damage. I mean, you look at, I mean, I hate to bring them up. Now, I'm not saying they would have made the playoffs in an expansion this year, but A&M, I mean, they did beat Alabama. I mean, there are some teams out there that I think have these kind of maybe two or even. I don't think a three-loss team would get in, but you look at some of those two-loss teams, and you're like, maybe under the right circumstances they can win, right? It's college football. I mean, football in general is weird like that, right? Any team can win on any given day when they play. Now, with that being said, you kind of brought up Alabama. I think Alabama's always going to get in an expansion, which okay, that's fine until Nick Saban leaves or what have you. But definitely, it's going to bring some question on okay, are some of these teams getting in just because of their name, right? I'm a big kind of I think I'll say I think some teams get in sometimes because of their names. You hear this, always hear this talk of SEC is so good. No, SEC is top heavy. You have Bama and maybe one or two other schools, but even then, it's just Bama that's always constantly good year in and year out. And then you have these other teams that fluctuate between being good and being bad. And that's kind of like if you took Alabama kind of out of the SEC, like if Alabama didn't exist, right, as a school, I think you'd see a lot more. I think what I'm looking for is parity, where you see more competition and stuff like that. So we'll see what happens overall. But who you got in this one? I mean, the game's coming out Monday. Who you got? You think Georgia is going to be able to make those adjustments from kind of? I mean, they got pretty handled against Alabama in the SEC championship game, or you think Bama just gets that back-to-back championship?
Let me preface this by saying I am a UNT alum, and we don't have good football, as I'm sure you know. So you kind of have to cling to bigger schools that you want to root for. And in this house, we are unfortunately an OU family, and I just you hate to see Bama win. So I want Georgia to win, but I think Bama will take this.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia's definitely going to work on their defense because that seemed to be one of the keys. Is Bama just played a hurry-up game, and Georgia's defense wasn't predicated on that all season. So we'll see what happens there. Moving on to the high school realm, I mean, I did talk about high school a few weeks back when we did the last show of the year when I did the show by myself. But talk to me about some of these state games. You were actually there. Talk to me about some of the teams. Any team surprise you? Any teams kind of maybe not live up to the expectations you saw for them?
Um, the team that really surprised me was Stephenville. I don't know if you watched that game, but I really thought LBJ was going to win. Stephenville went out there, and just the way they started so strong. I was at a media day for that game, but I kept checking the score, and then I also kept tuning into you guys. I kept commenting on your YouTube. But I was absolutely shocked. Don't get me wrong. Stephenville is an amazing team, and I knew that they would go far this season. I knew that they were going to put up a strong fight against LBJ. I didn't think LBJ would just kind of lay down on the field at the beginning of the game. That was absolutely shocking to me. LBJ, fantastic team. They really always have been, and I think they really always will be. But that's the most shocking of the entire state week that I saw.
Well, I think a little bit of that might have been just the state jitters, right? And I mean, four turnovers on the first four drives, and I mean, if you look outside of that first quarter, if you look, that was a pretty evenly matched game. So if LBJ doesn't turn, even if maybe if they don't score, right? But if they don't turn the ball over four straight time, maybe even just because like you look, I think the first one was inside Stephenville territory, and I believe the next three were all in LBJ territory. So Stephenville got three possessions, in scoring position already, and it was just hard for LBJ to recover. So I wouldn't necessarily say that they laid down, but I think some of that was obviously the kind of the hey, we're playing in a state championship game for the first time kind of jitters. Now, while most of these, I know none of these, because I think Stephenville hadn't won a state title since the early 2010s kind of time frame. So this was all new for Stephenville as well. But when you've been there as a school, I think it's a little bit different. So, and I think that coach I think he came back. He was a Stephenville player, I believe, and I think he had been a state. So there's some stuff to say about having been there before, just the atmosphere, of course, of that game itself. I mean, it's
And the
a
bleached hair.
yeah, and the bleached hair. Yeah, I was a little surprised about that North Shore Duncanville game. I thought Duncanville was going to get that one. And once again, I mean, just North Shore came out with a great game plan, and Duncanville really couldn't get anything going. Now, North Shore couldn't really get anything going either, right? It was 17-10. That was the final. It was a really back and forth game. Obviously, North Shore won on that amazing pass. I think it was what, a 60-yard touchdown late or into the fourth quarter. So, but I was really surprised
Yeah.
about the lack of movement from the Duncanville offense.
Did you see how Duncanville actually lost? Like how they had, you know, enough time to maybe make a Hail Mary pass there at the end, and I kept thinking to myself, oh my gosh, what if this is, a replay of the last meeting but in reverse? But they on kickoff or on the punt or whatever happened, I can't quite remember. They had 12 men on the field, so turn the ball back over to North Shore with enough time to kneel it out and win.
Yeah, I think it was a punt. But um,
Okay.
but yeah, I mean, and you got to feel bad. I think you got to start wondering if maybe it's in their head a little bit. I mean, you had their wide receivers drop a couple of balls, into that game that would have put them in scoring position. So just a lot of stuff, and you got like once again feel bad for Duncanville. I mean, I want them to win so bad at this point, but
Yeah.
they're gonna have to get over that hump, and we'll see what happens. Of course, next year, I think they got a pretty good squad returning, so we'll see. And of course, I mean North Shore, who we know, I mean they'll have that quarterback for 3 more years, so he's only a freshman, which is crazy to think about. Yeah, because I mean that kid is just playing some great football, and we'll see. I mean, heck, now you got a whole season's worth of tape on the kid as well. So we'll see what some teams do. Of course, realignment is coming. I think we're actually going to be live streaming that. Myself, and our broadcast director Merle will be on site, I believe, to live stream that. So we'll be able to hit you with the realignment as they announce them. So be looking forward to that. And of course, then we know Westlake goes off into the sunset after a close scare. I mean, Dengar was winning into the third quarter. Let's not forget that. But then Westlake's adjustments started to take over, and they kind of pulled away from that one.
Yeah, Denton Geyer, it's so funny because the talk in the press box was, North Shore is going to take this right out. And you had a couple of really good plays from Denton Geyer there at the beginning. And then you had
I think
Geyer
you mean
start
Westlake.
to,
You said North Shore. I think did you mean Westlake?
oh, yeah, yeah. I meant Westlake. So you had that really great opening play by Westlake. And then everybody was like, okay, Geyer's done. It's over. This is the tone of the game in the press box. And, in my head, I was like, no, this is not the tone of the game. Like, you don't know this Geyer team. And the Geyer team, they came strong, and they said, you know what? We're here to play, and we're not going to stand down. They kind of started to fall off, the wheels just fell off the wagon there for a little bit. It was a really, really good game. I really thought Geyer had this until right there when it all turned over for Westlake.
Yeah, I think like I said, I think it was the adjustments by Westlake at halftime. I think it was a little bit of Westlake waking up as well. I think they maybe came, especially after that, blocked punt for a touchdown. They probably came out thinking, oh, this one, we got this one in the bag, and then Denton Geyer came out and said, well, not so fast. We're not going to go down without a fight. So I think Westlake, the players themselves, kind of had to wake up and realize that this wasn't going to be as much of a cakewalk as they might have thought it would be. And credit to Denton Geyer for hanging in there for as long as they did, and making Westlake work for it. So of course, then it brought the conversation, the whole California. You should have seen the kind of in the chat, and you can go back and watch it in the chat for our watch along. That whole game was Texas versus California football, and man, what a conversation that was. So if you haven't seen that chat yet, definitely go check it out. It was something we definitely laughed at from just a standpoint of how competitive that conversation got of Texas versus California football. As we know, Mater Day walked out the number one team in the nation after all things were said and done. But Westlake, what a great season by them, and Coach Dodge walks off into the sunset with the heir apparent being their defensive coordinator, which is much kind of deserved by him. So that kind of puts a little bow, a little Christmas bow, I guess you could say, on Texas high school football. We'll still be talking some Texas high school football throughout the season. We got some ideas for some shows and whatnot. So, but we got to move on. Football season is over. and we are on to basketball season, which has already been going on. I think district plays actually started this week, if I'm not mistaken. Shayna, talk to us a little bit about the Dallas. As your dog's in the background,
I
a
know.
little
I
cute dog
know.
there. But talk to us about the Dallas basketball kind of landscape. Where is it at right now? Are the teams that you kind of maybe envision being at the top, are they still kind of at the top? Any teams maybe uh, kind of coming out of the shadows, if you will? Just let us know about what's going on over there in the DFW basketball boys and girls kind of realm.
Richardson, you gotta give it to Richardson boys basketball. They are always on top of it. And I wanna act surprised, but you can't with how good Richardson is. Um they I think they have a strong battle. Sorry, my dog is really playful right now, out of nowhere. They have a really strong battle for, I mean, a strong campaign to win state again this year. As you know, they have Wallace. Wallace is an absolutely incredible athlete, and he's gonna run away with it this season. I really think that. I think we'll see Richardson stay at the top. Then you have Class 5A, where Dallas Kimball is just running the show in the DFW area, as well as Mansfield Timberview. They've been doing absolutely amazing. Um, on the girls' end of it, you have DeSoto. I mean, you can't say enough good things about DeSoto. I'm actually looking for my notes on their three star girls. They have Amina Muhammad, Tiana Heron, and Samaya Smith. All three have been phenomenal throughout their entire career, even through injuries. So I think we're going to see them continue to be strong this season now that they are all back and they are all playing. Um, we're going to see DeSoto go far, maybe even win state again. I don't think we'll see anything too surprising in the UIL world of basketball for DFW. But I mean, the basic rundown is still, Richardson's dominating, DeSoto's dominating. You have McKinney on the rise, and Duncanville obviously is up there at the top for boys. And if I'm not mistaken, they're up there with girls too. They've been playing pretty well. Um, but that's the scene in DFW is DeSoto, Richardson always dominating.
Now, do you think the Duncanville girls have any chance of, competing with the DeSoto girls?
I think they do. Duncanville girls have been really, really good in history and this season as well. I want to say they have a really good record right now. I'm looking that up right now. I want to say they have something like 20 wins, which is still more than DeSoto has right now. But I think Duncanville's played a couple more games. Okay, they have 21 wins and 4 losses. And in district, they're 2-1. They're doing really good. I do think that Duncanville can, stand up against DeSoto. I think it'll be a really good game when they play each other. Are they playing each other?
Well, I think if they played, it would be in the playoffs, most likely.
In playoffs, yeah.
Well, let's see. I'll
I
look that
think
up for you while you talk.
Yeah, I think if they do meet, it's going to be okay. They do play this season in district, but I think it's going to be a matchup. It's going to be physical and really tough. DeSoto, those three athletes on DeSoto's team, they run the court no matter who they play. They could be playing, man, I don't even know, Texas women's basketball. They could be playing somebody crazy, star-studded, and they are going to run that court even if they lose. They're going to put their entire heart into that game. I can say that about those three athletes. I've seen them play. They are extremely tough. But Duncanville also has that strong squad. They have a big family mentality throughout the entire athletics department, not just the basketball team, but the girls' basketball team especially. I think they could definitely put up a strong match against DeSoto.
Well, and they actually have played each other already once this year, I believe, in a tournament, and DeSoto won by 4 points. So it tells you right there how close of a game it's going to be. I'll tell you one team in my area that I'm, kind of interested in continuing to follow, as the season continues. And that Cedar Park, as we know, they won the state championship last year. They're out to a undefeated record so far this year, and they've beat Duncanville. Duncanville's one of their wins, and Cedar Park's a 5A school. So that's one of the teams at the girls level that I'm really paying attention to see about going back to back. And I think Cedar Park right now has the squad to do so. And on the boys' end, for me, it's like kind of in the boys' realm, like Austin and San Antonio. It's almost kind of similar to football in some aspects, in that they don't always have a lot of teams kind of at the top, right? I think probably the biggest name out there right now is Westlake. I think they only have one loss on the season, playing well, and probably maybe even still finding their groove, right? I mean, Jaden Greathouse, as we know, the star football player, he's also on the basketball team. He just joined the team, so it's one of those things where they're just probably getting some of their players now that they have their football season's over. So that's probably the one team. I think they lost to Duncanville last year in the state finals, I believe, for Westlake. Let me check that. I don't know if you know that at the top of your head, Shana. Do you know that at the top of your head?
I don't know.
Well, let me go ahead and look here. Give me 1 second while I pull it up here. I believe it was either last year or the year before, but let me see here. If you give me a second here while I pull it up, but I know Westlake's been close a couple of times. I think 'cause I think we talked about them last year trying to win in football. Yeah. So they lost in the against Duncanville in the state championship in basketball. So they were trying to go back to back last year, right? So we'll see if they can do that this year. And then another team in their district, San Marcos, I got to give them a little shout out. They did play in a tournament, and Westlake won that game. So, I don't see I don't know if San Marcos can get over that hump this year, but that's another team to kind of look out for that could maybe make a run if the kind of things found a place. And then, like I said, in the girls realm, it's Cedar Park is the team to watch there. Austin is another team, the Austin Bulldogs. Of course, they were a very good volleyball team as well. For the girl, this is for the girls, by the way. Austin girls squad. They're going to be a team to look out for, and San Antonio Clark as well. But for me, it's Cedar Park. What are they going to do? Of course, we kind of did that last year. I think. But kind of before you started doing the podcast, me and Scott were kind of talking, with about Leander and their softball run, right? They were like the top team in the nation, ended up losing, didn't even make the state championship. They lost in the playoffs, and so it's like you kind of put all your chips in the basket. It doesn't work out, but you gotta love what you've seen out of these Cedar Park girls so far. So interested to see how they do. Any last thoughts or comments about this basketball season so far, Shanna?
I'm just gonna comment on Cedar Park. They are absolutely amazing, but I do want to say, Frisco Liberty is coming for them. Frisco Liberty is, I don't know if you've looked at the TABC rankings. They're number 2. Cedar Park is number 1. But Frisco Liberty has put up an insane tough schedule, and they have just fought this season. I think they are definitely a team to watch in the DFW area. Aside from obviously DeSoto and Argyle and the big names in girls basketball, but Frisco Liberty is definitely coming for Cedar Park, I think.
Yeah, and hey, it's one of those good things. We always talk about it. It doesn't matter what your pre-district record is. It matters what your district and record is as far as making the playoffs. So you see the 19-0, you see the 21-4, and you're like, well, they have 4 losses. Cedar Park must be better. Well, maybe not necessarily, right? You talk about their opponents, and let me see if I can even look them up here. See who those losses are to. Sorry, my keyboard was. There it is, girls basketball. Let's see who Frisco Liberty has lost to since we're here on the air. South Grand Prairie which was their first game. So Plano is another one. Frisco Memorial, and Duncanville, and that was
Duncanville, yeah.
And that was a 3-point loss to Duncanville. So, it's one of those things. Cedar Park beat Duncanville, Frisco. Maybe that could be why. Maybe that's 1 and 2, right? So Cedar Park beat Duncanville, Frisco Liberty did not. But kind of setting themselves up well. And it's one of those things that's like, hey, play those tough opponents in pre-district in those tournaments. Go to those tournaments and play some tough opponents, because that could pay dividends when you get to playoffs. One of the big things we talk about when we talk about kind of districts is, some of these teams play in districts that aren't strong. And I don't necessarily know Frisco Liberty's, district opponents and if they're strong or not, but you kind of see that, right? You see a football team or a basketball team that kind of run through their district and they get bounced in the first round of playoffs just because competition is tougher. And so doing this stuff pre-district is always so beneficial for squads, and they'll tell you that. They'll tell you we love these pre-district kind of games because it's going to get us ready to face those tough opponents when we get to the playoffs. So definitely got to be keeping an eye on that Cedar Park and Frisco Liberty squads as we get further into district and into the playoffs here in a month or so. So that being said, that is basically our show today. Shannon, do you have any last thoughts about anything before we get out of here?
Um, I mean, nothing too crazy. This is going back to the NFL a little bit. Did you happen to see, where did I write it? Oh, did you happen to see Jamar Chase's reaction to having more yards than Mahomes?
It was just something crazy like, what? I can't believe it, or something like that, right?
Yeah, he was like, I don't think I did that. And then he cussed in the press room, but I just thought that was so funny because like I don't know if you saw his game this week, but he had an outstanding game. And even I was looking through the fantasy. I stalk like our league matchups, and I'm like, oh, who's doing this? And I was just shocked to see he just exploded. And so to see somebody so good still be like in front of the press, what? No, I didn't do that. Like he still had a sense of a humble nature. And then the only other thing was, did you see AJ Green's response to AB's like meltdown?
No, go ahead and tell me.
So he made a TikTok of it being a free agent, and he was watching the game. He was watching the covering of AB, and he takes off whatever jersey he's wearing and puts on a Bucks jersey. I was like, oh no.
Yeah, that was a crazy situation indeed. But yeah, as far as the Jamar Chase thing, yeah, he had I did watch some of that game and definitely had a monster game, over 200 yards receiving. I think it was like 250 or something like that, and Patrick Mahomes had 230 passing. Yeah, it was something crazy like that. You normally don't don't see that, right? So a monster game for him. And that's gonna do it for our first show of 2022. We're gonna try for the most part to do a show Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Just schedule allowing. I know in a couple of weeks we won't be able to do a Monday show because I'll be flying home from Vegas that day, so won't be able to do that. But we'll try and come up. We got a couple of show ideas I'm trying to flesh out right now, but. Just thanks for joining us to start the new year. We'll be back probably Monday. We'll probably be back Monday. We wanted to get one show in, this week, and we'll probably be back on Monday. We'll try and do 3 shows next week for you. Shannon, before we get out of here, of course, I'd love to give you the chance to plug the DFW market. So where can people follow along to get all that DFW high school sports rundown, if you will?
So you're definitely going to want to follow along on Twitter at VYPECFW. On Instagram, we also have daily content, and it's going to be at VYPE_DFW. And, I do know that there are some people who really just enjoy the Facebook platform. So if you're on Facebook, go ahead and find us at VYPECFW again. We have lots of really great content, lots of mid-season basketball look-aheads coming out. So be sure you're following along, staying up to date with all the content, and getting ready for spring sports as well.
And then, of course, you can always follow VYPE ATX, VYPE SATX, VYPE Houston. Scott's not here, so I'll plug that as well across our various platforms, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, VYPE Texas for Facebook, or just VYPE for YouTube. Follow us along. I'm going to try. We don't have a content person as far as stories goes in Austin, San Antonio, but I might try and push some stuff out. Try my hand at writing, if you will, this for the spring semester. We'll see how it goes. But thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll be back again, like I said, on Monday. And hey, if we don't see you back here, maybe we'll see you at the games. That's the goal, right? So see everyone at the games. Have a good one, everyone. Peace.